Hey, welcome to the Breaking 1000 podcast. I am your host, Mark Brewer. I've got my friends, Scott Wilson and Hunter Wilson with me. And I just want to say thank you guys. It's been awesome for all the subscribers, all the people liking what we're doing here. And we're excited about what God is doing in and through this podcast. You know, one of the questions that we get over and over is, hey, if you're going to break 1,000, what kind of team do you need to have? Who are the people you need to have around you? So why don't you jump in and let's hit this thing.
Okay, so you're right. We do get this question all the time, talking about staff. What do you got to have to break 1,000? I remember, Mark, you were in the room the first staff meeting that we had when I became pastor, and I just asked how many people can we lead as a church, you know, with this staff? And there were different answers. You know, some people say, well, I think 1,000, I think 1,200. You know, we were running 650 at the time, and I just said, well, we know how to do 650. And I don't know if it was you or somebody else said, why do you say that? We've had 900 like 3 different times. I said, well, because all 3 times we didn't go down to 550. We didn't go down to 750. We went to 650. That was the hole in our bucket. That was the place we knew how to do. We knew how to do 650. Like God could bless us, but give us a minute. We'll get it back down to what we knew.
Well, it's kind of demoralizing and depressing because we aspirationally kept thinking, hey, man, we can lead 1,000 people in this place. But yeah, we couldn't.
No. And what was terrible, you know, my dad was pastor before that, and I remember going to him and saying, hey, Dad, can I ask you a question? He says, yes, son, ask me. And I said, how come we can't break 1,000? I don't understand. What do we need to do to break 1,000? And he looked at me and he said, son, if I knew that, don't you think I would do it?
Yes.
You know, and I felt this pain because I'm going like, God, isn't that the truth? Some of you listening right now are going like, man, if I knew what I needed to do to go to that next level of growth, to reach more people, to grow our church, don't you think I would do it? Well, that's why we're doing the podcast. So the staff has got to move, and that's what I started in that conversation talking about. We can't be just workers. We can't just even be equippers. We've got to become multipliers of leaders. Most churches that are plateaued have staff who are doers of ministry. I hired the youth pastor to do youth. I hired the kids pastor to minister to kids. But the truth is if you're going to break 1,000, you're not hiring them to do the ministry. You're hiring them to raise up leaders who are going to raise up other leaders.
By the way, that's not some Western church growth guru trick. That's a biblical principle that somehow eludes us a lot of times.
That's right. It's discipleship.
Yeah.
And so we're not called to do the ministry. We're called to equip the saints for the way of the ministry. So I think the biggest thing we've got to have is move staff or key team members from being doers of ministry to multipliers of leaders.
Yeah.
Yeah. So inside of this, well, you know, what I think is really interesting inside is when you go home and basically be like, all right, you know what? New staff commandment. We're going to make everybody multipliers of leader. Because isn't that what we do all the time? Is that we listen to a podcast, we read a book, we go to some event, and it's like, all right, new rule around here. This is what we're doing. And I don't know. I think I would maybe raise a caution light, maybe like a little yellow flag before you do that first, because what happens when you make a rule like this of like, we are going to be no longer doers of the ministry, but multipliers and pour into leaders who pour into people, right? I think it's interesting because you're not going to really reproduce what you want. You're going to reproduce who you are. And so when you look at the team members on your team right now and you ask them, go multiply yourselves. Let's just pretend that that's actually a physical thing, and you actually could create a carbon copy, like a physical clone, a duplicate of yourself. You're reproducing who you are, not like what you want to be. Like somebody that is maybe just like on a scale of 1 to 10,
That's
you're
good.
like, okay, let's just say I'm a 6 out of 10.
Right.
Not in your identity of what you're worth, but on just like a performance scale of like, okay, I'm a high performer. I'm a 6 out of 10, and I have room to grow, right? You're not going to reproduce an 8 from that 6.
You're saying that we can't get there by making an announcement of our aspiration?
You can't just aspirationally want it to happen and then it happens because you desire it to happen. You reproduce who you are. So I would just take a caution light real quick before you go and say, hey, go and multiply everybody right now. Create 5 carbon copies of yourself type thing.
That's really good.
I would be wary of that because what Gino Wickman describes, and we like to teach this to our pastors that we consult with, is that there's 4 types of team members that you have on every team. Our team, your team, big church, small church, big organization, for-profit, non-profit, doesn't matter. There's
whether it's a paid staff or whether there's volunteers.
It's these 4 types of contributors
Right.
on your team, okay? So let's just pretend right now, and this will be a little bit funny to do on a verbal because we usually like to draw this out. Let's say there's an x-axis and there's a y-axis, okay? And on this x and y-axis, we're going to create 4 quadrants, okay? So there's the top right, top left, bottom right.
Yeah.
There's 4 types of team members, right? Let's put the x-axis where they can either be, someone on your team can either be a high performer or a low performer. Okay? A high performer, let's say that's a 10, okay? And a low performer is a 1, okay? How of a high performer are you on a scale of 1 to 10? Let's just say I'm a 7, right? And then let's go on the y-axis, a culture fit. So this is somebody that highly fits our culture, or that's a 10. 1 is they don't fit our culture at all. And I like to think of culture as kind of like, I think the greatest representation of culture is the idea of an ambassador. So the ambassador is basically like, if you speak to them, you might as well be speaking to me because they fully represent me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
They get the language around here. They talk the way we talk. They act the way we act. They believe what we believe in. They care about what we care about. They're an ambassador.
Yeah, they're not trying to do their own thing. They're a representation of how things function, how
the
things feel here.
The embodiment of the organization, okay?
Yep.
So let's just say, okay, I obviously want a 10 out of 10 and a 10 out of 10.
Yes.
So let's put them in the top right quadrant. This top right quadrant, let's just call them stars.
So that's somebody incredibly fitting in the culture and high performance.
Yeah, so inside of this, they are the ambassador. Like, I always think of it like this. If I say star right now, like, who are the stars on your team? You're thinking of Sarah. You're thinking of Tanner, right? If I only had 10 more Tanners. If I only had 10 more Sarahs.
Yeah, because you're even thinking, going back to what you said, Scott, you're thinking, if I was going to multiply certain personalities or characteristics on our team, I'm looking to multiply the stars. Those are the people we want to multiply.
100%. And if we only had a team of stars, I would say go for it.
Yeah.
Go for it, right? So stars are awesome. You want 10,000 more of the stars. Usually what you think of is like, if I had like 5 more Sarahs, like, we'd be unstoppable, right? Okay, so we want more stars. That's obvious. And the next one, let's go. They are a high culture fit, but they're a low performer right now. So these are the people that are like loyal. They're the loyal people, but they're not really like high performers anymore.
Right.
So let's put them, if stars are in the top right, let's put over here on the top left, let's call them puppies, okay? Puppies. Puppies are interesting, okay? Because stereotypically in the church world, if we could afford hiring 10 more stars, we probably would.
Yeah.
But because God's unlimited and everything else is on a budget, I can't afford to hire more stars. So what I'll do is I'll hire somebody with potential and I'll train them.
Right.
But stereotypically what happens in the church world is we're so busy sprinting. We don't run on our cycles and cooldowns like we talked about, is that we never have time to actually train and develop the people on our team. So it's 3 years later and you thought your puppy would turn into a star, but really it's 3 years later and they're still peeing on the carpet and chewing up the
So we're not doing the work to multiply. We want them to be the stars, but it's hard operationally for us sometimes to get to the work of raising those.
And your metaphor is peeing on the carpet doing that. Basically, what we're saying is they're still not getting things done on time. They're still making mistakes, and they're still spelling errors and stuff, and they're still not getting all of it done. And they think, man, I'm doing good, but it's really not as productive as they need to be.
And I think if Gino Wickman was here who created this, he would be saying, like, puppies don't turn into stars over time. They turn into stars through training.
And that's a big miss. That's a big miss for us a lot of times. We think that time is going to fix it, but it doesn't. Specific, intentional work and activity is what fixes the movement from a puppy to a star.
But here's the tricky part too, is the thing about puppies, and I love that he said puppies, is because puppies are adorable. I love the puppy.
You want them around.
You want them around, and they love you.
Yes.
Like when you get home, they're like, oh my gosh, you're here, Pastor. You're awesome, right? You love the puppies. They love you. They fit. They want it so bad. It's like they want it, but they don't get it yet. Mm-hmm. It's like to become a star is like, I want it. I want to become a star. I want to be a high performer here, but like I'm just not yet. And no one's really training me on how, so I'm still a puppy. Mm-hmm. Yep. So that's interesting. So you have your stars, and then you have your puppies. What if you created 5 more puppies? It's like, I don't know. That's a lot of puppies to handle. Mm-hmm. That's what we're talking about here, right? All right. So we talked about the top right. We got our stars. We want 10 more stars. We want 10 more Sarahs. We also have puppies. Puppies aren't bad. Puppies just need training, right? So you have your loyal puppies, but they're low performance right now. Okay, so now let's go to the bottom row. So we're going to the bottom left quadrant, and these are the low performers and low culture fit. Gino Wickman calls these guys rats. And rats is like, I don't like that. I don't even like saying it. But if you think about it, rats are so interesting. You know, first of all, I've never met a pastor that says in an interview process, like, you know what I see in you? A lot of rat potential. Like, I see a lot of rat potential in you. I think you're going to be a perfect fit for our team. No, it doesn't happen like that. Yep. I think what happens...
Because they're not productive and they don't fit.
Nobody wants that, right? I think rats, most of the time, obviously you could hire wrong and it's just like, oh, that didn't work out. But I think what happens most of the time is they're the people that got grandfathered in from the beginning. Mm-hmm. The rats are the people that were there when you were a church in setup and teardown mode. They were there when you would recruit anybody to be on your team. All they needed to have was a pulse.
You wanted a warm body. It's warm body to fill some positions, or maybe you come into a transitional thing, you take a pastorate, and there's a few staff members there, and you don't want to start from zero. You don't have anybody, so you just absorb
somebody
what
is better
exists.
than nobody.
Yeah.
Right? And at the time, usually when you're smaller, you are so relationally intimate with the team and close. It's like, okay, first of all, on the culture side, a lot of times the rats were a high culture fit. Maybe they were puppies when you first saw them and they turned into a rat. How does that happen? Well, in the beginning, dude, when we were doing setup and teardown, we used to have like Taco Tuesdays at your house. We used to go to coffee all the time. We used to share an office.
Remember the old days?
Remember the old days when we used to do this stuff together? Now I never even see you.
Yeah.
Like you don't make time for me anymore. You talk about how you want to have like multi-site now and go to a second campus. I'm never going to see you then. You know what's also in the culture
left
fit?
Behind.
It's the people that were, let's just say it's like Tim, little Tim, right? Tim was the guy that knew. He had the keys to the building. He had the keys to the chairs and the trailer, right? He was the one that was super important. It's like, hey, go ask Tim. That's a Tim thing, right? Now you have systems in place. You don't need Tim to be like the go-to. So it's like, I don't fit anymore. I feel left behind, and I'm not relationally as close anymore. And on the performance side, when you change expectations of what high performance looks like, because you're not a church and set up and tear down anymore, you're trying to break 1,000, right? When you change the game from being the doer to you have to multiply people, and you change the paradigm of what success looks like, that can totally
shift. That could shift
the performance
people.
model.
Yep.
Of I am no longer a fit here. So really, let's just boil this down because I don't want to get lost in the weeds. You don't want rats on your team. And it's so painful to say rats, but if you think about it, the bottom left quadrant is the rats. The top right of what we want is the stars. And really, they're opposites. They're opposites. Rats are the opposite of stars. And what's crazy about this is that star spelled backwards is rats. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
That's so clever. It's the opposite of what you want.
Yep.
A star is everything you want. A rat is nothing that you do. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking that's why we couldn't go like, well, hey, I don't like rats. Let's just say not a fit anymore. Or try to fit something there like it's like a round peg trying to get in a square hole or something. You know, it doesn't work. The whole point of rats is it's the opposite, and the spell backwards. We just have to go with it.
You just have to go with it,
It's
right?
brilliant.
It's too good. Okay, the last one here.
By the way, none of this is front-facing. So, Pastor, if you're watching this, we're not trying to create front-facing categories for you to make announcements around. We're just saying, operationally, you can be thinking through these frameworks as you're determining and discerning who's on your team.
So what that would mean is if you're doing a one-on-one evaluation coming up and you'd be like, all right, Steve, so I've learned this new category. You're what I call a rat. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
And I also wouldn't go up to people and be like,
You're a puppy.
you're a puppy, you know. Stars is okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the last one. So you have stars, high performance, high culture fit.
Yeah.
I want 10 more Sarahs. I want 10 more Timmys or, you know, whatever. Then you have your puppies. Puppies need training. Puppies are a high culture fit. They adore you. They adore the culture. They adore the church. They're just not there yet, and they need development.
Yeah.
They can turn into a star, but it doesn't happen over time. It happens through development.
Right.
The bottom left is rats. Rats are the opposite of a star.
Yeah.
They're no longer a culture fit, and they're no longer a high performer, or maybe they never were.
Yeah.
You know, you just needed a warm body at the time. The last one is a dangerous one, actually. Maybe the most dangerous is somebody that you need to handle immediately, is what we call the bombs. The bombs are people that are incredibly high in performance.
So they can get work done, is what you're saying. They're
Yeah.
able to get tasks and things accomplished.
I think an easy one in the church world would be like, let's just imagine it's a super high performer that is like a worship leader.
Yeah.
They're the best singer in
In
the
the
world.
event, in the moment, man, it's like we have the best worship leader
Oh,
ever.
the best.
Yeah.
The best. They're the most talented singer. They play the keys amazing. Everybody loves it when they sing. Everybody loves it when
And
they
they're
lead.
sharing the platform for like 20, 30 minutes every
They're
single
a big
weekend.
influencer,
Yeah,
right?
okay.
But they're no longer a culture fit. So what happens is they're incredibly high in performance, but really low in culture fit. And I want to talk about this and
It
why
can
this
even
is so
be,
dangerous.
if you talk about the worship leader, then it would be something like this. Incredible on the stage, but when they get off, they go, you know, our church would really grow more if they gave me more than 15 minutes.
That type of thing.
He
Yeah.
has to, his preaching isn't as good as our singing.
Yeah.
Or, hey, he won't let us do the music that we want to do. You know, whatever it is, it's basically saying they're very good at what they do, but their attitude and their heart
It's about
isn't
me.
good. Yeah.
Not about us, you know? And inside of this, what happens or what we talk about is, Dad, you talk about a lot that leadership is influence. And influence, obviously that's a John Maxwell thing, that leadership is influence, but influence is broken down to respect and relationship.
Right.
Okay? So the more influence you have is determined by how much respect you have and how much relationship you have. So half of the equation is about respect, which really translates into the church world as competency, right?
Right.
Like they're highly competent, they're highly skilled. So what makes them dangerous is half of the influence equation comes from talent. The other comes from relationship or cultural fit here, right? So the reason they're dangerous is because they are a bomb that could blow up your culture.
Yeah. Because I think even right now, pastors, leaders that are watching this, you're already recognizing right now who that is. Someone that somehow is getting stuff done. They're building these outreaches, these events,
people
these
respect
moments.
them.
So people on the outside are going, man, that person can really get it done.
Yeah.
But people that are having to work with them and deal with the cultural
I think
fit, they're
that's-
getting blown up from office to office,
I think
room
that's
to room.
more of the thing that is surprising for people is a lot of times the bombs have a lot of relational respect for their people they report to, which is usually you, the lead pastor or the executive, but they are terrorizing their peers.
Yeah. So there's some front-facing glow. Man, that person's really doing it. But behind the scenes in dealing with the rest of the team and how they get to the stuff getting done,
The bomb-
stuff's getting blown up all over the place.
The bomb
like
could be funny because
explosions.
it's just like, they said that? They never do that to me.
Right.
They never say that
Yeah,
stuff
because
to me.
you're their boss. You're their direct report.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what's dangerous about this is if you are not intentional to diffuse the bomb, and we're going to talk about that in just a second, is they're going to blow up the culture because they are the gossip. They're the ones that is, thank God for me. They are playing in a siloed territory, not being a cultural fit of where we're going as an organization. So these are the 4 types of team members. And when we're talking about, hey, look, One of the things you're going to have to do is stop being a doer. You cannot be a doer and just have a team of doers and break through to this scaled level. You have to become multipliers, right? But be careful. Let's just go back to that duplicating analogy here. If you were to create 5 more of you, you want 5 more bombs?
Yeah, so you're thinking even in terms of, we're not going to make an announcement that everybody becomes a duplicator and a multiplier. First, you need to get an assessment of who's on your team.
Yeah.
Because you're not necessarily wanting to multiply
You don't want
the
10 more
bombs
rats.
or the rats.
You don't want 10 more
Yeah.
rats. You don't want 10 more bombs. That is dangerous, right? The puppies are okay because the puppies are probably going to help other puppies inside of this. It's not going to be a threat. You're going to have a lot of loyal
They're
people.
in the bullpen. You're training them. You're pouring into them, raising them up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, so what do we do with each one? I'm thinking of it here in stars, like we've already said, you want to multiply those. If you have a star, you can go and like, hey, dude, I want you to take on some of those puppies and start helping them.
Yeah, let's get to
with
some
that,
action steps. So we've framed this now. What should a pastor do as they're assessing and they're recognizing these categories?
I think, first of all, you got to translate the analogy to actual names. You got to understand, if I have a team of 5,
people?
what category do I think they fit in?
Mm-hmm.
And really, this is a current gauge of where they're at. They're not a rat as an identity of their person. They're not a bomb as a person. It's just like right now, I think that they're in a dangerous spot because they're a high performer, but I don't think they fit here anymore. So what do you do? Okay, so you got to categorize them, and then you need to have a unique strategy on how to lead each one. So why don't we start with the stars?
So first you're evaluating personally each person, where are they right now? Okay. So I think stars, man, go for it. First of all, you need to let them know, dude, you're a star.
I think that's a big deal.
I love you. I love what you do. I appreciate you. If I had 10 more of you, man, we could rock this whole place, you know?
Because I think what's important about that is a lot of times lead pastors spend so much time dealing with cleaning up the pee from the puppies, dealing with the rats, and dealing with the bombs, that they ignore the stars because it's like no news is good
Let
news.
it ride. It's
like let it ride. They're crushing it.
But they
don't
feel
need anything.
underappreciated, and they need to know, hey, what gets celebrated gets reproduced, continues to go. And so you want to tell them, hey, I love what you're doing. You're doing all. In fact, it's not just, hey, you're great, keep doing it. It's that be specific in celebrating them and the things that you see them doing, and encourage them, hey, come on, take some of those puppies, develop other people, because you want that to happen.
Yeah.
When you're talking about the puppies, obviously we've said it multiple times. You got to train them, but it's got to be intentional. What is it that these people need? Each one,
For their
where
role.
are they at, and what do they need for their role? What do they need to do to become a star?
Yeah.
You know, and one of the greatest things you can do is connect them to a star. You know, that law of proximity where they're with them just causes them to get bigger. Oh, that's how you're supposed to do that.
We're not just doing the work. We have to have an apportioned amount of time on a weekly basis that is specifically pointed to the puppy so that we
which
can
is
develop
hard
them.
sometimes as a pastor or as an executive, or thinking about, hey, that's going to slow me down. I don't have time to do that. Listen, it may take you some pain in the moment, just like training a puppy if you're using the metaphor, but man, it's going to save you a lot of time in the end, you know, when you have them as a star and that's reproducing and multiplying out. The rats, I can't think of one rat or one person that was low performance and low culture who could make it on the team. Even if you say, well, I could put them in a position where they could be productive over
lateral
here,
move,
whatever.
but
the problem is most of the time they can't function. When the church was 100, they were functioning in that top group. Even if they weren't your top performer, they were in that same team. They were eating Taco Tuesdays with the main guys. Now you're at a place of 500. They're not with those people anymore. They're down lower just because of all of that. That's why they've turned culturally not fit.
Yeah.
So these people have to be released.
And it's not personhood. Like you said, this is a gauge of where they are in operating with the team and our current reality.
You know what's crazy is every pastor wants a high performance team. And you know who also notices the rats? Your other stars.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And they're looking at you as a leader going, Hey,
are you going to handle this?
Yeah, they did not see this.
And if you're not, you're leaking credibility.
You do leak credibility.
People are going like, what is wrong? How do you not see that this guy doesn't fit
So what I
anymore?
think I heard you say is you don't remember in 35 years of pastoral ministry someone who was in the rat category that was necessarily able to move into
Have a
another
turnaround
category.
on the-
And
yeah.
I'm not saying that they can't be in ministry anymore. Don't hear me. I'm not talking about they're not a
It's
good
this-
person.
it's this team,
I'm
this
not
role.
I'm not labeling them as that person's now a rat person.
Yeah.
I'm talking about is low productive, and the only reason we say the rats because the star flipped. I'm saying they can't fit on this team anymore.
That's it. We're
Because
not talking
if
about
you're-
kingdom.
Yeah, because if they were at the top and now they're working for they're 3 layers down, they can't ever. I don't see how psychologically they can function that way.
Yeah.
They could go be on another team at another church that's running 150, 200 and be a leader there.
And,
Okay?
and the problem
So-
is the thing about the rats is that it's the low culture piece that is the real killer here. Because like they're not a high performer, but yeah, neither are the puppies, right? The problem is that when you no longer are a cultural fit, it's gonna ooze out of you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
they're
it's gonna
toxic.
spread.
It's toxic.
Vision is always at the mercy of culture, no matter what.
Right.
And so if they don't have the culture, it doesn't matter what
Okay,
your
let's talk
vision
about
is.
on this side for the guy. On another team, they're not going to be a rat. They may be a star. They may be a puppy.
Yeah.
Okay. Because on that team, they're able
Depends
to
on what
fit
the standards
in that.
are.
Yes. So that's the point. Is we're talking about this is not just good for the church to get that person moved. It's good for them to find a place where they fit in
Yeah.
a role that will work,
Yeah.
where they're culturally excited and fit, and where they can be
Okay,
productive.
what about high performer, low culture bombs?
The bombs you've got to have an honest conversation with. You got to sit down and say, hey, listen, you are one of the highest performers we have if we're using the worship leader. And by the way, if you're a worship leader, we're not picking on that. It could be a youth pastor, kids pastor. It could be anything. It's just sometimes you can see that in somebody who's ultra talented, but not fitting. And the thing on the worship leader is everybody seeing them and saying, oh man, they're amazing. But behind the scenes, people don't know what's going on. So on that one, I think you have to have an honest conversation because I have seen bombs turn back into stars. Think about it. They're as productive as a star. Okay, they can be as productive as a star.
Mm-hmm.
It's just culturally they're low. They're not doing well. And so what you've got to do is have a conversation with them is, hey, listen, I appreciate what's going on here, but it seems like there's conflict going on in the relationing with other staff. It seems like you're not feeling as excited as where we are. Talk to me about what's going on. And so allow them to communicate. And if you can talk to them and win that relational or get them back culturally fitting, like, hey, man, the only way you're going to be able to stay on this team is if you understand this is what God's calling us to do on this, and this is how it works here. And if they go, hey, you're right, I had a bad attitude on that, please forgive me, and it's truly a repentance, I've seen that restore back to a star, and that's great. If not, then you got to remove them, whether you go, but my gosh, nobody's going to understand. I've been there. I've had to release people before, and it was a bomb person that it impacted, and I had to go around and try to mitigate the impact of that. But you can't have that bomb. Listen, the longer you leave a bomb in place and you don't deal with it, the bigger the explosion is going to become.
Yeah, it
the
doesn't
impact.
shrink. The bomb's not shrinking.
So the quicker you can see somebody getting culturally off, you go talk to them and give it a chance to move into that category. But otherwise, you've got to let them go.
Okay, what about a few closing thoughts here as we land this plane?
Yeah, I would say obviously every pastor wants a team of stars. That's just simple. If only we were that simple, and if only we could afford it. So inside of this, dude, you got to respect the stars and let them know that you appreciate them. I think that's a huge deal because a lot of times you just ignore the stars and they want to go be a star somewhere where they are appreciated.
I just thought of something I've never thought of before with what you just said there. If we could only afford it. Let me tell you something. You can't buy culture. So I can buy somebody who's highly productive and gifted, but it doesn't mean it's going to be a chemistry fit for us. So even on that, no matter what, you can't, even if you had an endless amount of cash, you can't just buy stars. Stars have to be people. In other words, you can't skip training. You can't skip talking to people. You can't skip conversations of clarification and
Yep.
keeping people in alignment.
So inside of this, obviously we want a team full of stars. I think the two fastest path to do this is training your puppies or diffusing the bombs. Actually, the fastest path to get another star on your team is getting a bomb back into a cultural alignment.
Yeah.
It's not always going to happen. It's not like 100%. Like they might choose to be like, I don't like it.
It
here
may be
anymore.
the fastest. It may not be the easiest.
Yeah.
You know,
And so in that, I think the puppies can turn into stars through development. I think you can diffuse the bombs back into cultural alignment. And I think you have to get rid of the rats because they're small in the metaphor, but they're actually working as an anchor that is holding you back.
you got to help them find where they're going to fit somewhere else.
Fantastic. All right, man, this was really good today. Thank you guys for joining us. And there's some work to do coming out of this for you, pastors and leaders. Thanks for joining the Breaking 1000 podcast. If there is a topic or a question that you'd like us to tee up on this, just shoot us an email at hey@readysetgrow.church. And we're looking forward to seeing you down the road.